Hey YouTube, this is Tom at TM Aquatics, and it is time for a fish room tour. We're going to hit up all the tanks, and we're going to do it in less than 20 minutes. So let's get started. Alright YouTube, well it has been about 5.5 weeks since I uploaded any content on the YouTube platform. Life got pretty busy there, and I just didn't have a lot of spare time to make videos, to edit, to upload, etc. Things are kind of quieting down, so I thought I'd take this opportunity and do a full fish room tour today of all of my tanks. Now when I say that, I say it lightly because I don't have the largest fish room in comparison to a lot of other people here on YouTube. There's a lot of guys that have 50, 60 tanks. There's people that have 100 plus tanks. There's a lot of people that, have, 30, 40 tanks, but they've got massive tanks, 200 gallon, 300 gallon tanks, things like that. I don't have anything near that. I've never been one to get into super large tanks, and I've been in and out of the hobby several times, and I don't want to have so many systems that I get burned out. I've been there so many times, I've been burned out so many times, so I'm trying to grow back into the hobby gradually at a pace that works for me, my personal life, my career, etc. And right now I'm up to 19 tanks. Now with that being said, I do have one new expansion that I'm going to be adding to the fish room, and that will be the 5th expansion to my fish room. And that's going to take place sometime in January. I hope to have that project completed. I really haven't started it, but that'll put me up to about 21 or 22 systems, maybe 24 systems. It just depends on the size of tanks I go with and how many. Now, when I do a full fish room tour, I always start out here in my rec room with this planted 75-gallon Endler's tank. Now, this isn't anything special to look at. This tank has been used primarily as a plant farming tank. And I always sell a bunch of Sagittaria at our club auctions. I always grow out 1 or 2 large Amazon swords to sell at our club auctions. I used to sell a bunch of the subwasser tank, but you can see because I've neglected the tank and gotten behind on the maintenance, there's a lot of algae up into that subwasser tank, and it's being really stubborn. But I am growing out, a bunch of Bucephalandra on both sides of the tanks. I have a lot of moss shelves up there with a bunch of boosts, and that's been, I've been propagating that and adding that to additional tanks as in my fish room as we go, and that's all doing really well. Now back here I have just a ton of crypts that you can't even really see behind this piece of Manzanita branch, Retrospirellus, Wendettae, etc., and a bunch of Anubias. Now as far as occupants in here, I do have a young pair of super red bristlenose, and then I probably have 300 or 400 Endlers in here. Now I have thought about taking this tank and getting rid of everything and doing a reset and setting it back up as a Pleco tank for my L397 Leopard frog Plecos. We'll see. I do like having a planted aquarium, and I've always been partial to the jungle look like this, but right now it kind of looks like a hot mess. Again, it's been a little bit neglected, but it is what it is. This isn't scaped for looks, and it's just a tank with a lot of plants that I try to sell off and make a little bit of money to help subsidize the hobby. But if I did convert it to a Pleco tank, I would probably keep like half a dozen of the Endlers, the males, and maybe a dozen females. Select the males that have the traits and characteristics that I'm looking for, and then I'd have to get rid of the rest along with all of the plants with the exception of the Bucephalandra and the Anubias. I would keep those. Enough time on this tank. Let's get going if we're going to do this in under 20 minutes. Over here, the other display tank that's in the rec room here is my 120-gallon red Severn tank. This is my least favorite tank that I have right now. It is my largest tank, my only tank that's bigger than 100 gallons right now. Nothing really to look at here. It was never intended. I never intended to buy these red Severums and have them a year and a half and grow them out. It was just kind of a temporary thing when I set this tank up. It used to be set up for Discus. I lost one of the seals on the tank, got rid of all of my Discus, and I didn't set this tank up for, it was probably 4 or 5 months after that event before I set this tank back up. Didn't know what I wanted to do, so I grabbed half a dozen red Severums and a half a dozen Roseline Sharks or Denison Barbs at my LFS. here we are a year and a half later, and the same fish are in there, and I still don't know what I want to do with this tank. Now the Severns are getting pretty big. They're 7.5, 8 inches long from nose to end of the streamers on their fins, and they've developed quite a personality. Now these two here have broken off from the group, and they spend a lot of time cleaning rocks and stuff down here. So far, no spawns. I'm going to give them a little bit more time, maybe another 6 months, and if we don't get anything out of them by that time, I might just pull the trigger and get rid of these and do something different. What I'd do after that, I don't know. Wouldn't mind like a Lake Tanganyikan community tank. I wouldn't mind a rainbow tank, and I wouldn't mind actually going back into Discus. But if I did Discus again, it would definitely be wild Discus, or the natural colors of a wild Discus, whether they're captive bred wilds or whatever. Anyways, enough on this tank. Let's head back to the fish room. When we come in here, we've got 4 racks, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We'll just start right over here. On the first rack, I have 2 20 longs and a 29 gallon. Top 20 long has 2 pairs of Santa Claus Dumbo Ear Guppies, and the females are getting pretty close to popping. I actually expected to have some fry by now, but so far I've not seen any fry. I'll have to take a closer look in there. If they are dropping any fry, they are eating them. But right now I don't have any fry to speak of that I see. I don't know where the second female is. She's in there somewhere. But anyways, there's 2 pair in there. Beautiful guppies. I love them. I think they have a great pattern, and definitely a welcomed addition to this fish room. Anyways, down here, this 20 long really isn't set up for, there really isn't anything in here except some cull shrimp, some Bloody Mary culls. And all that Anubias I picked up at our last club auction. I paid about $14 for all of that Anubias Nana and Anubias Nana Petite. Got quite a great deal on that, but anyways, I only have a few Bloody Mary culls. I was going to put some Royal Blue Orange Eye Tiger Shrimp in there. Just haven't sourced any. I'm not sure if I'm going to go that direction or if I'm going to change plans. I just don't know at this point. But anyways, enough on that. Down here, the 29 gallon. This has my group of L397 Plecos. And we'll see, there's a tail of one of them. And when it comes to plecos, sometimes that's as much as you're going to see. There's another tail right there. Beautiful fish, expensive fish, you never see them, which is really unfortunate. But this group here, they're getting pretty big. I picked them up there about 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches. They're going on, they're closing in on 3 inches now. So it is time to get them out of this tank, to give them some more room so they can continue to grow out. Now this is a Panacolis or a Panacolis, however you choose to pronounce it. This is a wood-eating pleco, and there are 6 different types of wood in that tank for them to munch on, so they get a nice variety of wood to nibble on. I think I see, there's that other female. I was like, where the heck is she? There's one in there. There's the other. She might be back there trying to find a place to drop some fry. I'll have to watch her. Anyways, over here, enough on the 397s. Eventually I will breed them and I will make them available, but they're hard to source in the US and they're expensive. 40 long, 55, and a 33 long. Up here in the 33 long is my zebra pleco group. There was one back there behind that filter. There's one hanging out there. A couple along the side of the caves there. There's another one over there, but you get the drift. Terribly expensive fish, beautiful fish, but mine are all juveniles. I have 8 of them. The biggest one is probably 2 inches right now, and they'll grow to about 3.5 inches. It'll be probably 1.5 years before these are even close to being ready to breed. Until then, they get a few water changes each week and high quality food, and they get a lot of my time and attention. But I have a total of 8 zebra plecos in here. I might add 2 more, but I think I'm kind of content at 8, and probably one of my favorite fish that I've ever had. So anyways, down here, the 55 gallon, this is my, I'm going to close these, getting way too much glare back here in the camera. Hopefully that's a little better. This is my group of L134 Leopard frog plecos, and that female right there, she is sitting outside on the edge of that cave. There's a male in that cave in front of her. She has been hanging outside of his cave for the past 5 days. She's very, very gravid, and she is feeling a little frisky. Sadly, I don't know that the male is sharing that same you know, feeling the love and sharing that same sentiment. I don't know that he wants her in there. I don't know that he knows what to do. Back here, you can see that tail right there. That male lives up in this cave. He has become extremely hairy, and I was hoping that she would come up here and want to go into his cave, because I think if she came up there when he's home, I think he would open the door, pick her up, and carry her across the threshold. But the fact that she's showing this much interest in this cave with that male, that's a very good sign. I have not bred my leopard frog plecos yet, so that could be the beginning of my first actual spawn. I have a total of 12 leopard frog plecos in here. A little bit of Bobitus, Anubias, Java fern, a narrowleaf Java fern, and then some Praecox rainbows for ditherfish. I keep the tank on all of my pleco tank, or the temperature on all my pleco tanks, at 82 degrees. With the exception of my zebras, I keep them at 84 degrees currently. Down here, this is my L333 tank. There's 2 different types of L333s in here. The adults that you see, the tails that you see, those are Port Damas or Porto Damas collection point. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fish. However, I have picked up 5 young L333s over the past month and put in here. And those young L333s are the black and yellows. And they have quite a different, or will have quite a different color pattern or pattern on their body. And at some point when those L333 black and yellows get bigger, I'll want to separate the two. But the other ones are so small, they're 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. You know, I probably have 1.5 years before I have to worry about them being a large enough size to breed. Maybe even 2 years. So nothing I have to worry about anytime soon. I do plan to actually pick up more of the black and yellows and then have a group of 8 to 10 black and yellows. I also have 3 green lasers in here that I picked up from a club auction for $14, a few albino red guppies, a little bit of guppy grass, a little bit of narrowleaf Java fern. And that's the L333 tank. Over here on my fry rack, I have 5 20-gallon tanks. These are all drilled, and they all have an automatic drip system. So they get about 3 gallons of fresh water each day. Down here on the end, I have a batch of blue-eyed ancestris growing out. There's 40 to 50 in there. In here I have 15 Lamprologus ocellatus shell dwellers. Tank's a little dirty, but the water's perfect, trust me. These are Lamprologus ocellatus gold. These are Praecox rainbows here that I spawned out of this group here. They're starting to get a pretty decent size. Not too many males though. I got a lot of females, not so many males. And there is a young super red bristlenose in there. Over here I have 30 Lamprologus ocellatus, and these are on hold for someone down in Texas. He wanted me to ship them this last week, but due to the holiday season, the post office just can't be trusted. Even the express overnight, it's actually a 2-day delivery to his location. Toss in the holiday season and it could easily turn into a 3 or 4 day delivery. Just not going to risk that. So we're going to try to ship these down to Texas after the first of the year, unless he backs out of the deal. But right now they're on hold. In here I have a group of, these are yellow cobra endlers that I picked up from our last club auction. There's 14 of them, 5 males, 9 females. Paid $11 for the group. They were super small, didn't know what sex they were, took a gamble, ended up with a pretty good ratio, and they're just starting to color up real nice. I also have a batch of blue-eyed ancestris. There's 60 to 70 in this batch here. They're starting to put on some real nice size. You can see they're 1.25 inches, some of them, and some of them are a little smaller, but you know, they're doing really well. So yeah, that's that. But that was my most recent rack that I built back here, and that was just completed a few 2-3 months ago. But I'm real happy with how that turned out, and it's really been serving its purpose real nicely. Now over here on the last rack, I have 4 shrimp tanks and 2 aquariums. We'll actually start out with the shrimp tanks. I don't clean the glass on the shrimp tanks, and I really don't mess with them at all. So glass might be a little dirty. I'm just going to apologize ahead of time, but this is my group of yellowback, or my yellow 24 karat golden back yellow neocaradinas. There's actually probably close to 200 shrimp in here. They like to get up into this pearlweed. You can just see them all over this pearlweed. And you know, this is just a big ball of pearlweed that goes all the way to the back of the tank. And there are dozens and dozens in there, along with a lot of babies. You can see them all on the glass on the side there, but there's a couple hundred in there. They've been breeding very true and very bright yellow with that golden stripe down their back. They've been doing really well for me. I've been selling quite a few of these actually, but very happy with that group. Next door in the 20 long next to it is my tangerine tigers. And again, this group's been doing really well. There's easily 200 shrimp in here. And I always have a ton of buried females, but they also like to get up into this pearlweed, and there's going to be several dozen up in here that you can't see, but there's easily 200 plus shrimp in this tank, I guarantee. Really the only time you see them is when you see them all is when you feed them, drop a couple pellets of food in there, and man, they just come out of every little crack. But these are tangerine tigers. Down below, these are my Bloody Mary neocaradinas, and this is my newest shrimp edition, but I've had them for quite a while. Again, there's probably 150 give or take. I have been culling some of these out of there. They had a bunch of fry. I gotta close these. I'm getting, again, too much reflection over here and glare. I had some Bloody Marys that I had to cull. They actually were completely clear, void of any color, kind of like a ghost shrimp or whatever those are. And but the ones I have in here, they're a nice bright ruby red, and they look amazing, especially when they swim in front of a light and they just look like little rubies swimming in the light. But again, iPad, come on iPad, focus iPad. Again, there's probably 150 or so in here. Now this tank down here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because these are Blue Dream neocaradinas, and they're really hard to see. There's a lot of them in there, but dark blue, dark substrate, dark background, dark sponge filters, really hard to see. And I don't have a lot of bright lighting on these tanks, so they're really hard to see. The Blue Dreams are of various qualities, anywhere from, you know, colors like a black rose. There's several that look just like a black rose, and then there's some that, you know, don't look quite as nice. A couple of them look like blue jellies actually. But enough on that. This 40 breeder right here, this is just kind of a mishmash right now. I do have some dithers in there, some rummy nose, there's 9, there's 5 green neons. And the plecos that I have in here, you can see there is an L260 Queen Arabesque right there. And then hanging upside down right there, there's an L264. I have 6 of these fish. I have 6 L264s. I have 2 L260s in here, and then I have 2 pair of blue-eyed ancestras in here as well. So there's a ton of plecos in this tank. But again, you don't see them all. There's another sultan right there. You can see the reflection. There's another sultan back there. But I have too many in here. I do want to put a new rack back here and start a tank for the L260s, and then source probably 6 to 8 more of those. But otherwise, Nubius, Java Fern, Bulbitis, kind of the go-to as far as plants in my pleco tanks. And then finally, the cash cow, Lamprologus ocellatus shell dwellers. It is because of these fish that I'm able to purchase a lot of my plecos. I have sold about 150 babies so far at about an average cost or price of $9. So it's because I've been breeding and selling these Lamprologus ocellatus that has allowed me to buy L397s, a bunch of L134s, a bunch of zebra plecos, the sultan plecos. I take the money, I put it towards new tanks and racks like this. So, but this little group of 6, actually there's 7, but only 6 are part of the breeding group. This one here is a sneaker male that actually eats and kills fry. But it's because of this little group of 6 that are in here, the 1 male and the 5 females, that I've been able to source a lot of my plecos. Now I do have some additional fry growing out. There's 6 in this box here. There's 5 really beautiful little fry in this box here. Those are just beautiful little shell dwellers right there. And then I have 13 over in this box here that I just pulled out 2 days ago. And I think this female has a few more babies. The rest of the females are starting to come down on eggs again. So in a couple more weeks, we'll have a bunch of new fry that we'll be able to pull out of here. But anyways, we're at the 20-minute mark, and I want to end this video. I do want to mention I am going to be building another rack. I think I mentioned that earlier. That new rack is going to be over here on this wall, and it's going to consist of at least 2 40 breeders. And I might also use the 3 10-gallon aquariums that I have, or do a third 40 breeder. I'm not sure exactly, but at least 2 40 breeders, maybe a third, or the 10 gallons. We'll have to wait and see. But this build will be done sometime in January, and that'll just give me a new home for the L260s and the L397s that are over here that need a little bigger footprint. I'll put that group in one of those 40 breeders. But that's the plan anyways moving forward. And with that being said, we're going to end this video. I appreciate everybody taking time to watch my videos. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. If you could, post any comments or questions down below. Hit the like button on the way out. Greatly appreciate that. And like always, until the very next one, thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you all later.